But right now, I want to introduce our guest here today on the State of the Saints podcast. Once again, he works for CBS Sports. He's an analyst. He's a New Orleans native. He went to McMain High School, Louisiana Lafayette. He played for them as well, and he's doing really big things. And I want to introduce to you Mr. Emory Hunt. Emory, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, man. I appreciate you bringing me on.
Hey, man, thank you so much for being here. We really do appreciate it, man. And thank you for all the hard work that you're doing out there in the field with CBS Sports, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's a lot of hard work right now, grinding on that draft guide, trying to plow through that before the draft happens, you know?
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And let's talk a little bit about the draft just to get started. I mean, we both at the NFL Combine. You had opportunity to interview some of the, top players. One guy was Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson, a running back out of Texas. I think that he's probably going to be that running back that goes first off the board. What are your overall thoughts about Bijan Robinson? And I'm asking you this question because the things that are going on with the New Orleans Saints with Alvin Kamara, he is a guy that can come in and contribute right away. So what are your thoughts on Bijan Robinson?
It's good about a lot of these backs coming out in this class, the fact that they are used to being in complementary roles. So Bijan is not, foreign to doing that, having Roschon Johnson right there. So you like the fact that he has that background. Then he's a good all-around back. He can pass protect. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I asked him a question about going deeper down the field. He's able to do that. He works after practice with the running backs coach and running routes. Downfield routes like a receiver, and we know he can run the football and has good speed. And I think that's what was missing from the Saints backfield. As much as, Kamara is a talent, and much as people love Kamara, he's best served as a complimentary guy and not the lead-off guy, because he's someone that feeds off when he has that guy that can set the table. And a guy like Bijan, in my opinion, can definitely do that.
Yeah, he's definitely a special player. His balance is incredible. I think it's been a while since we've seen a running back like this. You have to go maybe Saquon Barkley the last time you've seen a guy with this type of ability and skill at the running back position. Do you think that he will last to number 29?
That's the $1 million question. It depends, because he has a challenger in this class in Jahmyr Gibbs, who is more explosive, who's a breakaway threat, and is a better receiver going deeper down the field. So he brings a lot of the same things to the table that Bijan does, but in a more explosive package. But if you're a Saints fan, you're probably looking at, kind of reminds me of Alvin Kamara. You really don't want to duplicate the efforts. You want someone that's kind of a different type of back. So there's a potential he could be there. I feel like the draft is all about what position gets on a run. Every year it's, 1 year is going to be quarterbacks, 1 year it's offensive tackles, 1 year is receivers. So any one of our edge rushers, any one of those positions that happen to get a run on cornerbacks, it will always push down a position. And for the Saints' benefit in this, and for this question, it depends on, what happens first. There's a couple of wild cards up there in the front, whether or not you see the Bears trade down a little bit. They could use a tailback. Philly has 2 first-round picks. We know they could use a tailback. A team could jump up and get a Bijan. Buffalo could jump up and get a Bijan. So there's a lot of factors in play. But for the Saints' perspective, if you don't get a Bijan, if you want him, there's Jahmyr Gibbs right there as well, too. That's just as equally as talented and a little bit more explosive than Robinson.
Yeah. There's been a debate that's been going on, Emory, between what the Saints' decision, what they just made with acquiring Derek Carr and maybe doing a little bit of a rebuild. I don't know if you've really been following it. Some Saints fans feel like signing Derek Carr was a good idea. Others felt like maybe the Saints needed to maybe draft a guy, I don't know, like a Hendon Hooker, a guy that you can probably develop and maybe get a bridge guy. Where do you fall with that? Do you what do you think about Derek Carr would be my first question to you. And do you think that the Saints maybe need to still consider drafting a quarterback in this draft?
Well, they're going to have to, because they're going to lose Jameis Winston. That should have been the option right there. A healthy Jameis is the best option for this football team. but they went ahead and got West Coast Andy Dalton by bringing in Derek Carr. But here's the thing about Carr. When you look at their peak career, right? I'm talking about Andy Dalton at his height and Derek Carr at his height. You could legitimately have an argument that Andy Dalton was better. Got to the playoffs multiple times with Cincinnati. I think he won a couple of division championships in that mix. Derek Carr has been with the Raiders for 9 years and has done virtually nothing but be kind of that QB 16. Maybe sometimes he looks like a QB 12. But for the most part, the Saints are getting exactly what they had last year. He has a better arm at this juncture than Andy Dalton, but they lose games in the same way. He takes that ill-advised sack. He has that weird fumble that happens in the middle of a game on a crucial drive. He may throw that costly interception. And I feel like this is a team, especially if you're Dennis Allen, you go back to the well in which you left with Derek Carr and bring him back into the fold. So I still don't understand what the Saints are doing at that position. So, yes, they do have to draft a quarterback. And the good part about it, there's a lot of young guys in this draft. But this is a weird, dichotomy because you're getting these COVID plus guys. So you're going to get a rookie that's going to be 24, 25 years old. So it all depends on which young guy that they feel as though they can grow and develop with. And if this is going to be the staff long term to do it, because another season like they saw last year, then these guys may be out the door. So this is a weird year for the Saints. And at that quarterback position, getting Derek Carr that doesn't move the needle for me.
I think about, what place would they be looking at a quarterback? Would it be at number 40? Would it be, maybe a third round? Maybe a guy like, I don't know, a Tanner McKee might fall to the third round. Hendon Hooker may fall into the third round. Because I'm wondering, Emory, because we seen this happen before, right? Like, you don't want to give, I guess, your starting quarterback the impression that maybe you're looking for somebody else because you're not satisfied with their type of production or you don't trust them. So what place should they be looking at maybe drafting a guy, second or third round, or maybe even some of the later rounds? What's your thoughts on that?
It's probably the later rounds, considering the contract they gave Carr. And I know the nuance may say, hey, they can probably get out of this deal after a year or two or whatever. But, at the end of the day, you sign this guy for, on paper, looks to be a large contract. So you're expecting him to be there. And then you just have to ask yourself, do you trust this current staff to work with the quarterbacks? Remember, this is Dennis Allen that tried to tell people Matt McGloin was a better quarterback than Terrell Pryor. When Terrell Pryor, had he just had the foresight, you see what the NFL is doing now with mobile quarterbacks, he would have been at the forefront of that. And we saw how horrible that went for Matt McGloin, to where he had to go back to Terrell Pryor. And he ended up getting fired anyway. So we saw this play out with Jameis Winston. We see this play out time and time again. So do we really trust Dennis Allen to choose the right quarterback? And if you're the Saints, the scouts, do you trust that this staff will be around to develop a young quarterback? So you kind of are stuck between a rock and a hard place. You may have to go and find someone the later rounds that may be a little bit older, that there's going to be a solid number two. The reason why you want the older guy is because the older guy has played a lot of college football and can step up in there if need be, if something happens to Carr or whatnot. So you really don't want to get a young rookie. You want to get one of these guys that's 24, 25. You think maybe a Jaron Hall out of BYU. Hendon Hooker falls in that category. He's going to be 24, 25. But again, you put pressure. You know how Saints fans can get. You put pressure on the starting quarterback after a couple of incompletions. Then, next thing you know, Carr's looking behind his shoulder, looking over his shoulder. He's been benched before, so it's a weird spot that they're in based off the quarterback that they brought in and the contract they gave him, juxtaposed to the current coaching staff that's in place.
Yeah. Let's talk about Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, there's a report by Diane Rossini from ESPN said that the Saints I got to call it for what it is. It seemed like they gave him a little bit of ultimatum. Like they are going to try to restructure his deal, and they're giving him the option of being a backup to Derek Carr, or, they're going to release him, if he feels like there's a market for him. Now, the big debate is, the Saints not doing Jameis Winston right, completely like disrespecting him, telling him, we're not going to go away from you. get yourself healthy when he had those 4 fractures in his back. Where do you stand with that, Emory? What are your thoughts about the treatment of Jameis Winston by the New Orleans Saints?
It's unfortunate, man. It's funny you rarely see a fan base kind of rally around a guy like this. And the fans, it's funny. I have to take you back to bring you forward, because when the Saints had Drew Brees and he got hurt for those 5 games, and Teddy Bridgewater got in there and, went 5-0, Saints fans kept complaining that, oh, he only hits a check down. All right, cool. And then they get Jameis in there, and Jameis is doing what Jameis does, trying to work touchdown to check down. Fans clamored for, well, he's not hitting the check down. They put Dalton in. Dalton hits a check down, and the Saints, he's going 30 for 35 for 86 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. And fans like, well, they're not doing anything offensively. Well, you can't have it both ways.
Right.
So I feel like Jameis, if I'm Jameis and the Saints call me, I'm sending them a picture back of Carolina, Indianapolis, Las Vegas. I am not returning to New Orleans. Why would I return to that same coaching staff? And it's sad because you rarely see this from Saints players. Players were backing Jameis in the midst of the season as they were losing. And like, man, they're throwing out subtle hints that, man, Jameis should be in there. Jameis should be our guy. They rock with Jameis. So if I'm, Jameis, why would I come back and be a backup to a dude I know I'm better than? So especially when the quarterback market is hot, especially if you're looking at a team that maybe just outside that top 5 that won't want to trade assets up to go and get one of these young quarterbacks in the draft. So if you're looking at Carolina, if you're looking at, perhaps Las Vegas, Indy, a sleeper would be Washington, And so but all of that being said, the biggest thing for Jameis, he has to stay healthy because he's now put himself in that category. We saw him get toward the ACL a couple of years ago. Then last season with the back. So now he's put himself in a situation where, can we trust this guy to be out there for a full 17-game season? And unfortunately, that limits your options in terms of financial burden because, hey, we don't know if you can stay healthy. They'll throw that out there, which could be a legitimate argument. So, even if you're Jameis, you have some, Pittsburgh could be an option for you if you want to take the backup and have a pathway to maybe overtake their first round pick, who, is average at best. You know what I'm saying? So there's some options for Jameis. One of them would be to not return to New Orleans.
Yeah. Final question for you is about Michael Thomas. The Saints are in negotiations with Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas back in 2019 was, a lot of people consider one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in football. 149 receptions, 1,700 yards. I think 9 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. Last couple of years, he's dealt with an ankle injury. Last year, he dealt with a toe injury that kept him out. What are your thoughts on Michael Thomas? Can he go back to being that Michael Thomas that people remember, being that all-pro at the age of 30 years old? And do you think that this is the right decision for the New Orleans Saints to try to renegotiate a contract with Can't Guard Mike?
Yeah, you kind of want to keep your top guys around, but the problem with Michael Thomas is the same thing with Jameis. Can we trust that he'll be out there for a full 17-game season? And that's the biggest question, man. You want him on the team because he's productive. We saw glimpses of the old Michael Thomas in week 1 against the Falcons,
right?
And then he had the injury. But man, it's almost like you really can't depend on. And this is speaking from a front office perspective. Like, we like the guy, we want him around. He's tough. He's exactly what we want on the team. But can we depend on him to be out there for a full 17-game season at this price? And the reason why you want to restructure is twofold. You want to restructure, try to create some more room to get more players on your team, but you also want to restructure to make it more feasible to move a guy if you don't want him on a team. So it's easier for a team to take on a lesser burden of a contract as opposed to a massive contract. So there's multiple reasons why the Saints want to restructure. Some of it, I would say the majority of it is good faith, because you want Derek Carr to have someone to throw to.
Right.
Outside of Chris Olave, you want to have 2 good options.
Right.
But you also understand the situation that you're in. Like, hey, man, this guy has missed how many games over the last couple of seasons? If we could get him for additional picks while also freeing up some cap room, it's a win-win for the organization and the team building process.
I got a follow-up. Even though you're trying to work things out, and let's just say you do work out a deal and you bring back Michael Thomas, do you still look in the draft to maybe find somebody with that same similar skill set just to kind of have a little bit of an insurance policy?
There's no downside to adding good players on a team, especially at that position. I mean, look at Cincinnati. They got legitimately 3 number ones at wide receiver. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and I was always a big fan of what they get from Tyler Boyd. I was a big fan of his when he was at Pitt. So yeah, there's no downside. We've seen teams go out there with 3 legit number ones at wide out before.
Right.
So yeah, you want to continue to add weapons. You want to continue to stockpile and make it tough to defend, because we know the NFL is a primarily 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end set. So you're putting a lot of strain on a defensive team's third corner. Your third corner better be a number 1 type corner. Otherwise, you're getting blasted out there on game day. So yeah, you want to find someone with similar skill set. You want to find someone that's physical, especially if you are struggling right now. The Saints have been struggling to find that old school tight end that they've usually had.
Yeah.
Jawan Johnson starting to come along and be a threat. But you know, if you can't find the tight end that you're looking for, stockpile the receiver room. And those guys just got to stay healthy. Saints have talent. They had talent going in, was why I thought they were going to do great things last year going into the season.
Right.
But man, when everybody started to get hurt, like one after one after one, it was like there was no way this team offensively is going to be successful. So yeah, there are options, and they got to find ways to really stockpile a room, no matter what room that is, with talent.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hopefully Michael Thomas can, stay healthy, because we all know how special this guy can be when he's upright. Emory, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Emory Hunt from CBS Sports. Let everybody know how they can get in touch with you.
Follow me on Twitter at FBallGamePlan. Subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/footballgameplan, and pre-order your copy of the Football Game Plan Draft Guide. It's going to be the largest draft guide in draft guide history. Last year, we had over 1,000 individual scouting reports. It's a PDF file. I print mine out. I'm crazy. So this is what it looks like printed out. So so you get all individual scouting reports. No one else is going to give you that type of information. Everyone else is going to have lists. So if someone's going to get drafted, best believe he's going to be in the scouting guide. And so you can pre-order your copy at footballgameplan.com/2023 draft guide.
Yeah, definitely order yours today. Thank you so much for being here, man. And we appreciate all the hard work that you're doing. Definitely putting on for the city. Everybody can't go to Carver like myself, but but we appreciate everything that you're doing, man. You're definitely killing it out there with CBS Sports, and good luck to you, man.
I appreciate you, man. Keep doing great work. You got a great following. You got a great format, great show. I check you out all the time, and I'm not just blowing smoke because I'm here, man. You keep doing great work, man. I'll forgive you for being from Carver, but I got a lot of friends that went to Carver. Fred Stamps, Billy Howard, all those guys. Yeah. The whole, I could go, we talked about this in Indy. I can name, I can go down and list all the guys, L. Page, all these dudes I know from Carver. So shout out to you and the great work that you're doing out there, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Emory Hunt, thank you so much for being on the State of the Saints podcast, man. I'll talk to you later.
Have a good one.
All right, take care.